Hello and welcome to Let's Talk, a show about talking about games and stuff surrounding it. That somehow works. And today we have Elijah the Unabridged Gamer. We're going to be talking about some Uncharted stuff.
Afterwards, the internet is going to hate me.
Yeah, that sets the tone. But anyway, without further ado, let's talk. So, Elijah, what's your kind of overall impression of Uncharted?
Uncharted is a perfectly competent and completely unremarkable third-person shooter with basic bits of pressing X to climb things in order to not die. It also has an inexplicably popular yet visibly imbalanced competitive shooter, and yet also is a fairly solid co-op shooter at times, especially in the third entry. But overall, I just kind of view it as a tech demo series. I mean, I know that Sony's kind of been doing that with a couple of their games. That was basically the case with Killzone 2 and with Killzone Shadowfall in some respects.
Can I just interject with The Order 1886?
That also is very much another one of their kind of visual tech demo things. But really, compared to all the other things they've done, like Puppeteer and, Journey, Uncharted just kind of feels like it's Gears of War, but slightly faster, and we boiled down Tomb Raider to the point that really anyone can do it. In fact, that's just it. That's the thing that made me really confused was I got a lot of hate for not liking Uncharted 2 back in the day, and it's not even that I absolutely hated it. I just gave it an average instead of, ooh, I'm amazed. Because, yes, the tech demo technology was very much impressive at the time, but no one besides Naughty Dog really ever got to use it. So as a result, while it was impressive tech at the time, it's aged considerably, and not a lot of people got to do much with it. And that's just sort of been the thing with Uncharted. It feels like it's locked into this casket of it was really impressive at one point in time, but it's not going to be as impressive down the road, because I have no problem with linear first-person or third-person shooters if it's done well and has enough unique aspects that it can really hook you. Spec Ops The Line is really captivating, even though it's only like 5 hours long, and in terms of mechanics, it's actually more inspired by PS2 era shooters than it is by the whole PS3 era style mechanics, other than the cover-based shooting. And, Max Payne 3. That thing might be even more linear than the most recent Uncharted game, yet it also did really crazy things with bullet time and tried to turn its little combat arenas into these dynamic John Woo style sequences. Whereas Naughty Dog basically is like, okay, just run forward and run away from the explosions, occasionally press X, you'll do fine. It feels less like a game to me. Now, this is me talking about the previous trilogy. I have not actually gotten my hands on with the fourth game, and I have some additional feelings on the fourth game based on what I've seen that differentiate a bit. But in terms of the original trilogy, I'd rather just play Tomb Raider Anniversary again.
I mean, like, Uncharted does just aim to be an interactive film, effectively. Like, originally, anyway, the first one. It was like, we're going to take Tomb Raider, and we're going to put a male protagonist in it, and we're going to have better story. That was kind of the idea behind it. And I think it absolutely nails its, aspirations to be an interactive film. But then, each game, so that the first to the second, it just gets better as a game. Like, the AI just gets better. You can do more things. You're like actually becoming Indiana Jones more and more, which is quite funny. And then again, third one, it has even better shooting mechanics and etc. 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 But I mean, at the end of the day, Nate is kind of a bit mass murdery. It's quite funny.
He's a high functioning sociopath.
Yeah. He's adorable. We love him for it. But yeah, like you were saying, it's basically just like press X to continue effectively. I don't know. I just think that the simple interaction that the games give you, literally, it's just one button to take cover. You occasionally jump and shoot stuff. That's kind of it. But I think it creates like pretty spectacular moments. So, you've got the Uncharted 2 train.
Can I please respond? I don't mean to cut you off. It just
Yeah.
I want to agree, but the thing is, and this is something I was thinking about after you asked me to talk to you about the whole series, it really does allow for all these sort of dynamic moments. And you know what? The whole idea of a simplified control scheme to allow really impressive stuff happen totally is legit. You don't need to make a game as dense as the original Witcher to make it be a deep experience or a dynamic experience. But the thing is, the sort of control scheme and mechanics that Uncharted employs are something you expect in an open world game where there's tons of new scenarios and all sorts of dynamic elements that can't be controlled by the player and that keep things fresh. That's how GTA 3 is still being played to this day. Technically speaking, GTA 3 is incredibly basic.
Yeah, true.
But it also happens to be incredibly accessible and allows for a lot of things to happen. You can still get into crazy car chases and everything. And that's, in my opinion, why it works so well in that sort of setting. It's why something like Just Cause 2 is fantastic. But if you made Just Cause 2 linear, it would be incredibly dull.
Well, I mean, Red Faction Guerrilla, Red Faction Armageddon. You know, Guerrilla pretty damn good because it's open world and etc. Armageddon not so good because it's not open world and it's just a bit rubbish. But I don't know, it's just the characters in the setting kind of just pulls you along. Like, yeah, it is linear, but it does a good job of not actually feeling that linear at times, even though you are literally running down a cave. But you feel like you explored that cave, you discovered it.
It depends on how you approach a level. If you pretty much just follow the cues that you're given, yes, you're pretty much guaranteed to feel like you're just wandering through. But if you diverge off the path just a little bit, you're almost always met with a brick wall. Plus, the game sometimes actually gets a little bit too hand-holdy. I mean, they give you the answers to the puzzles in your journal and then repeatedly say, press select to see the journal.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But I mean, we'll get onto that side later. But it just, like, again, Max Payne 3, very linear, very simple set of tools, but because it has a good, compelling story, decent characters, reasonably decent anyway. Like, this is all the same with Uncharted as well, and good locations, and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't feel like you're being funneled down a path, even though you are.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you say good characters,
Yeah.
are you thinking of the performance by the actors who are playing the characters and who embody them, or are you thinking about the writing there itself? Because I will agree that the performances are really well done, but some of the writing is actually kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, that's a series, that's a thing that's happened through Uncharted. It has just got better. Like, the writing in the first one was a bit off. But I mean, yeah, the performances overall just brilliant for Nate, especially because it's Nolan North. He can't really go wrong. But the writing in the first does go wrong a bit. The second is better, but there's still some fumbles with a lot of things.
Especially Chloe.
Yeah, Chloe's quite funny. It just gets better. Like, you've got Cutter in 3, who I think's handled really well just throughout the whole thing. Just writing wise, like, it kind of makes sense why he's there somewhat. Where Chloe doesn't.
Oh yeah, actually, and that's one of the few cases I won't actually nitpick Naughty Dog for the writing choice, because that wasn't an intentional decision for him to be out of the game. The actor himself had scheduling issues, so they were mid-production and they had to write his character out. Otherwise, Charlie was supposed to be there the whole way through the game, just as much as Sully was.
Damn it, I wanted Charlie. Anyway, I didn't even know that, because I literally just watched the initial trailer at E3 and then didn't look at anything because I wanted to go in fresh. So, yeah. Thinking of Sully, I'm glad that Sully has finally not died, in inverted commas, in Uncharted 4. It's like, I think he died, inverted commas, 3 times in Uncharted 3.
At least 2 times, and by the second time I was like, yeah, no, I don't believe you.
Yeah. It's a bit stupid, but yeah. I mean, I have my problems with the series, obviously. But yeah, it just gets better. The series overall it started good for the time, and then just got better from there. Everything, the writing, the story, the mechanics, everything, and everything also got a bit less bullet spongy, which is nice. So it's like the first one, you just kind of shoot someone for 10 minutes and they're like, I'm a nice sponge. And then the fourth one, it's like, I shot you 4 times, you're now actually dead, which is good. Also, the gun sounds have got better.
Oh my gosh, the sound design has gone from being a tin whistle to actually being a gun.
Yeah.
That's one of the main things where I'm like, okay, I can tell that someone from The Last of Us was working on this because, oh my gosh, it actually sounds like a gun.
Yep, definitely. And the guns, instead of just, I've got a revolver, I've got a pistol, pew, pew, pew. That's my gun impression. It's actually, like, each pistol sounds different, which they kind of started with in 3. They have done a really good job with the sound design in 4. In terms of guns, anyway.
Well, yeah, 3's kind of just the turning point, in my opinion, for the entire series almost, because it's the first time they really considered, okay, let's try to make scenarios be a little bit more dynamic, and I know I keep using that word a lot, I'm sorry. And on top of that, there's been a lot more in terms of trying to add death, because they were trying to make the competitive multiplayer be something, because in Uncharted 2 it was just sort of like, we're going to toss this in and see if it works or not. And then it was like, oh, actually people like this. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, did not see that coming. So then they had to throw in tons of new weapon items and everything, and having to try to make different variants, which I think did end up helping the combat a bit, because suddenly it wasn't just... Well, in Uncharted 2, it's essentially, you want to get the M6. You want to get the M6. There's nothing else you really want to use, because the M6 is incredibly accurate. It holds tons of ammo and does tons of damage.
Yeah.
There's basically no point to use any other gun once you have it.
But it's because there wasn't much climbing, in the multiplayer for Uncharted 2. It was more flat maps. That there wasn't so much of the verticality, or shooting over ledges and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, and that I will grant one other positive actually. The
the ever-moving...
Yes, the maps that actually feature the ability to be on set-piece moments, but they're actually made into multiplayer maps. That was brilliant. The part where you're trying to all fight to get on the plane, and whoever is on the plane spawns in first, that is a genius idea, and I don't actually know why they didn't just keep making levels like that for the multiplayer, because I would play that. You give me a multiplayer game that is as dynamic... Frack, I keep using that word, sorry.
Just keep using dynamic, it's all good.
But seriously, they came up with so many different ways for things to play out, while it's still being a really cool moment. And it basically is also what I've just ended up liking the most out of Uncharted 3, which was that there are moments in the series where it lets itself be a little more flexible, like the horse chase sequence and the pirate boatyard. They finally allow themselves to do something, and it's like at that moment that was just the very beginning of what would eventually become Uncharted 4.
I have my problems with 3, but you like Golden Abyss, but I just think it's kind of
I like Golden Abyss because it actually feels like an adventure game. That's really the easiest way to explain why I like it, is that it felt like I was genuinely playing an adventure game and not just a shooter, because most of the time if you were shooting it was sniping based, and when you were shooting it was neat because you could actually use the gyroscope and it worked remarkably well, so there was that novelty aspect. But yeah, it was basically because I felt like I was actually being an archaeologist, because I'd have to, decipher ruins, I'd have to explore the environment. There were moments of pause, which is something I've also seen in what I've watched of Uncharted 4 Online, is that there are moments where the game just lets itself breathe, and it's like, yeah, let's just explore for a bit.
Yeah.
Let's just let the player loose and navigate the environment, which is really what I liked about Tomb Raider Anniversary, so it was nice seeing that pop up there.
Yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider kind of does that as well. Yeah, I mean, so literally the build of Uncharted 4, so it starts, obviously explosions happening and, action, blah, blah, blah. And then it does the Uncharted thing of, oh, now I've fallen somewhere, let's cut back to a previous thing that happened.
It worked in 2, it worked in 3.
Yeah, so it's the original scene, and then, you fall off the boat, and then you're transported back to your childhood. And, yeah, then literally for the next 3 chapters, there is basically 1 or 2 gunfights, I think. That's it. Like, the rest of the action is occasionally running and jumping off a thing for about 10 minutes, while it's all collapsing. And that's kind of it in terms of action. And then it really just builds on from there, and it's kind of like what The Last of Us did.
Which isn't that surprising, because Neil Druckmann was brought on to replace Amy Hennig as the head person for Uncharted.
I really want to know, like, the design change that happened with that transfer.
Well, apparently you remember the really early teaser trailer where it was the guy talking about how he wanted revenge on Drake?
Mm.
As much as I have to believe that was an early version of Rafe, apparently that character, whatever version that character was completely written out. The voice actor who originally played him said he wasn't even involved with the production anymore, so there must have been some significant changes, at least in terms of the story.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just really briefly going back to my joke on Indiana Jones, you now basically have the Indiana Jones whip.
Oh, I know. But I don't care, because it's a unique gameplay idea I've not seen anywhere else, and it really looks like it's fun.
I mean, I think the only game I've really seen that sort of swinging idea in is probably Bionic Commando. Obviously done differently, but the idea of, swinging, basically. Like latching on stuff and swinging.
And they do use the whip well, not only in terms of, it's something that you can use in battle, but also as a great way to actually incorporate the player more into set pieces. Because there's that one bit where I'm not going to spoil for everybody what all the circumstance is, but there's one point that your brother Sam's in a gunfight and he's in a ballroom type area, and you need to get to him, so you swing around and you break through the glass, and it's a full level transition, and it's just very well done.
There's a bit later as well that you're sliding down. I mean, they could have easily...
Oh yeah, the sliding. Actually making the sliding be a consistent mechanic as well. That's what I mean. There's things about Uncharted 4 that I really like that I never really saw in Uncharted 1 to 3, but I really like seeing it happen, at least in Uncharted 4. It makes me very happy to see that sort of stuff.
Let's just jump onto the story before we talk for years about how amazing Uncharted 4 is. But yeah, so like, I know you obviously haven't played as much Uncharted as me, but like, what's your kind of idea of how the story evolved from 1, 2, 3 to 4?
How rapidly can we retcon this character over 3 games so he has the exact same character development? That's basically the storytelling. Everything I've seen of Uncharted 4 essentially says it is very much a direct sequel of Drake's Fortune. It very much, because all the characters from that reappear, and all the plot beats from that are, in some way addressed. But besides that, I mean, Chloe barely gets a mention. Charlie gets name dropped once and never appears. And in fact, they actually make a huge plot hole in Uncharted 3 by having Sam be in existence now, because first it was all about how Drake met Sully on his own, but he meets Sully way before what happened to divide Sam and Drake up for a while happened. So was Sam just, busy chasing after some girl or something? Because it's really awkward and kind of embolizes the big problem with the series in that it's always trying to make its entries standalone, but as a result kind of undercuts the development, because realistically, some of the things that happened in Uncharted 2, if they had more weight on Uncharted 3, it'd really make an impact. Like what happens with Elena in Uncharted 2. You'd think that would have a big impact on where she and Drake are, yet when we come to Uncharted 3, nope, they're split up again.
Yeah, they hate each other again. Until Uncharted 4. Yeah, it is quite weird, but I think that's just an inherent problem with Chloe, where she's a decent character, but she could be better if they just made an effort with her. I don't know.
I think they just weren't ready to commit to having it be a different girl each time, like an Indiana Jones thing. They wanted to do that, but then they were like, nah, or maybe the playtesters didn't like her over Elena. I'm not sure what the story is there. It really comes across as a hasty rewrite, because she doesn't get to have an arc, and in Uncharted 3 her character actually gets kind of rewritten, and admittedly so does Elena a bit, although she does get to have an arc over the course of the series, to the point that she's almost more like a protagonist than Drake, because she goes from being just this woman who wants to
Film stuff.
she wants to get
Yeah.
footage for her TV show, and she goes from that from being a war correspondent, and later on she's actually more competent at getting stuff together than Sully is. Out of anyone, she actually does at the end get the most development, but it's still kind of awkwardly handled.
Yeah, no, yeah. I can't really argue with that. To be fair, I would love to, but I can't. Yeah, there is a lot of weird stuff with characters. Charlie just sort of gets name dropped, as you said, and that's it. Like, there's no other mention of anything that happened before, other than let's walk around my loft and pick stuff up. But obviously that's in Uncharted 4. But I mean, going from what it started as in Uncharted 1, which was, I think, about what's the holiest of cheeses? I can't think of cheese names. But whatever the holiest of cheeses is, it's basically gone from that to more kind of like cheddar. So it's quite solid. That metaphor broke down.
So it's gone from Swiss to cheddar?
Yeah, there you go. It's gone from Swiss to cheddar. But yeah, I mean, at the time, Uncharted 1 was great. It was everything it kind of needed to be. And now it's just like, yeah, it's good. At bits.
Gotta say, playing the demo right now while we're talking about this, it is weird some of the differences they actually did make in terms of the controls. It actually does admittedly feel a bit more, when just looking it over, a bit more like old school Tomb Raider. There's a little bit more deliberateness to it, and the environment itself does sort of have more of an old school feel. It's interesting actually looking at that.
What's that with Uncharted 1 or 4?
Yeah, I'm talking about Uncharted 1. I got the demo loaded up on my PS3 right now.
Okay, cool. Don't you love the floaty shooting? Isn't it great?
It's very dark sector. That's the easiest way to describe it. It's very, very dark sector.
Yeah, it's trying to be good. Yeah. Then, obviously, going from Uncharted 1 to 2, story-wise, they just made a massive improvement. They, apart from Chloe, actually just sort of appeared to try, which was interesting. It's a massive difference. I mean, there are some awkward silences in the game, which I'm not actually sure if are deliberate or not. Like, this is in, I think, pretty much all Uncharted's, but, between Chloe and Drake specifically, there are just some weird silences, and I don't know if that's actually on purpose, or it's just the game recording, that they're not in the same room.
Well, there's both that, and there's also the problem that, I don't know how much this was for the main campaign, but I know for pretty much all those co-op sequences that you could play, a lot of that was actually done with just having the actors improv as their characters.
Ah, okay.
Naughty Dog really liked actually letting them do improv, because they found the actors to be funny when they were doing the improv, so they wanted them to do more of that.
I like that one. Improv always brings out some weird little quirks.
Such as someone saying dynamic 50 times in a row.
Yeah. Dynamic. Yeah, then, you go from Uncharted 2, which was pretty, solid throughout. There wasn't any really, giant issues that you can just kind of run a barge pole into. Even Chloe, where even I, admit that Chloe is a bit weird, as a character, in the game. But there isn't that many issues, where Uncharted 3, the entirety of the end of Uncharted 3 is they've gone, we've done really well with the story so far. Let's just do crap.
It sounds weird for me to be coming to their defense in this case, but the plot in general was kind of scatterbrained, because they went whole hog on going set piece first, and when you do that, and you're developing all this tech, and you're trying to make it stitch together, and you're also trying to get the game out towards release date, combining those two things together is not going to end well, because, like I said, I actually like the shipyard, because there's some environments that you really get to just use as you need, and it encourages you to move and be an active participant. But also, there's absolutely no reason for that pirate to be in the game.
True.
There's no point I think Drake even makes a joke about how that was essentially pointless when he washes back up on shore.
Yeah, there, there is a lot of weird, funny, I guess, funny jokes like that in Uncharted. That it's like, why have I just done that? I don't know. Why have you just done that? Yeah, and I mean, yeah, like Uncharted 4 has a lot of like callbacks to things. So when you're in Scotland, you keep going down some slidey bits, and I don't know why they've put so many in, but they literally make a comment. So this is Nate and Sam literally make a comment like, "Oh, do we have to do this again? Come on." If you're at the point where you're literally making the characters say that, maybe it's a bit too much.
Yeah, this is getting to the point where Kyle Katarn was calling out the Raven software level designers in Jedi Knight Academy.
Yeah. But I mean, they have actually handled that stuff well in Uncharted 4, so it's like, when they're like, oh, come on, this is a bit too much, it's, you could actually do one or two more, and it'll be okay, and they actually put them in, like, other slides or other swings or other climbs in, but they feel more natural.
Oh, I get what you mean. From what I've seen, they genuinely have gotten a great deal more variety. It's not just climbing a lot, okay, now you need to drop for this part, now you need to climb a lot, and you don't really actually get to do all that much with the climbing. You do seem to actually get a chance to explore, especially earlier on in that same level I was referring to earlier. There's a part where you're just sort of exploring along the cliffside, and Sam and Nate are just kind of hamming it up while exploring, and it works because it's one of those calm moments where you're just sort of exploring, and you're allowed to just do that. It's an adventure game. Exploring is a really good thing to have.
Yeah, there are different paths. And in fact, the AI, so towards the later half, you get, and in fact this was in the E3 demo, you get like a spike that allows you to climb kind of soft walls, like soft rock. But obviously Elena doesn't have that. So you climb up this soft rock bit, and Elena just goes round and climbs up another bit. But you could actually go round and climb up that bit as well, where, there was maybe one or two of those bits in Uncharted 3, but there wasn't in any of the previous ones. It was literally just, you start at the point, you go around your little squiggly line, and then you're there, which works in favour of Uncharted 2, because it makes, that game just much more memorable, but at the same time, you haven't really felt like you've done that much, but, that's in retrospect from playing Uncharted 4. The weirdness at the end of Uncharted 3, you know the Helen Mirren character, or Mirren.
Yes, we all know Helen Mirren's unofficial character.
It's like, she's basically spent the entire game basically shooting at you. Not directly, but indirectly, sending her people to shoot at you. So, when she's in quicksand, Nate, being Nate, wouldn't just go, yeah, I'll decide to save you after 10 minutes of staring. He would either walk away, or actually go and help her straight away. It's just really weird. It felt just like a, look, Nate is good, he tried to save a bad person kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm glad that they show some hesitance to him towards combat in the Uncharted 4 storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that Sam is the first one to actually draw a gun, because then it feels, okay, so he had to have some innocence lost before this, because even in Uncharted 3, even in the flashback sequence where you're baby Nathan Drake, he's still got a lot of edge to him. He still feels, he almost does pull out a gun on a guy. He has hesitance there, but that's more just because he's a kid, not because there's actually a big moral quandary. At least that's not really how they convey it.
Yeah, that whole kind of building of Nate from, from innocent kid to who he is, as an adult. The escape from the prison, you literally maybe have about 2 areas where you shoot people. But most of the shooting in flashbacks is done by Sam. Because obviously then you have his breakout scene, and he shoots a lot of people. Where Drake shoots a few, like 2, 3, most of them, is punching them. I think the best thing that Uncharted 4 has done though is learnt its lesson of pacing from The Last of Us. It's learnt we can just have bits where we chill. Just chill, you've obviously been saying it as well, but it goes to the point where they literally don't do anything for about 5 minutes. They just have a chat.
It's not like you're not moving or anything. It's not as if you're just standing around like in the Order 1886, because that one, its downtime kills any motion that you had, because it's all, okay, let's stare at some random objects for 10 minutes because someone spent a lot of time modeling them. We don't know why, but they're very proud of their work, so we have to look at Timmy's whatever steampunk thing this is.
I mean, yeah, there are the bits where you're running around and chatting, but there are also they're cutscenes, but you are literally standing still. Some of them is kind of solving puzzles, which is still the Uncharted puzzle solver. Let's look at my book now, but it does have bits of calm. Like there's a scene with Elena and Drake, who are literally talking about washing dishes.
Yeah, it was nice seeing them flesh the characters out of it, so it's like, okay, so this is what they're actually like when they're in a relationship, because we constantly see them in and out of it, but we never really establish, okay, these people like each other, but would it even work? And they give a somewhat convincing argument at the very least that, yeah, they can get along. They're a happy couple to a certain extent. And also, when Elena picks up on Drake lying at one point when she's talking to him on the phone, the way they convey it very subtly with her delivery and with her facial expressions, it really conveys that, yeah, they are. She's learned his tells and everything.
I think, it's the first time that two characters have kissed in a game, and it hasn't been really awkward.
The animation tech has come far. I will give Naughty Dog all the credit for that, but it I
mean they don't show lips touching or anything, but I mean in terms of just usually when two characters have a mouth fight.
Oh, I know, it's rum 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 rum.
Let's make some weird noises. Exactly. Yeah, but it's not weird. It feels a lot more natural than it does often in games, and I don't know. I just think that everything about Uncharted 4 is just the best that it could be right now.
Well, there's one thing we haven't touched on yet that actually is a critical part of Uncharted. It's kind of surprising it is, but Naughty Dog's always been pushing it, so it's worth mentioning. We need to talk about the stealth mechanics.
Yes, I love them. They're so good. Okay, they're not like Last of Us good, but...
Well, that's the main thing I've been seeing, is that you can't whistle or anything. It's
no,
like,
you can't.
It's like, guys, Assassin's Creed released years ago. It's okay. You can take some ideas from them. No one will be upset.
What button would you use for it? That's the problem. Because
Naughty Dog's actually gotten very good at that. They have the whole double use system. Like in the case of The Last of Us, reloading is also the button for fire. It's about a matter of if you're aiming or not. So, and realistically speaking, if you're in cover and let's say you're in a bush, then why not make something like one of the triggers be a whistle?
Because one trigger aims, one trigger always shoots. That's all it ever does, because you can blind fire, you can shoot while jumping, etc.
Yes,
etc.
But if you're in a confirmed stealth situation, because the thing is, even Uncharted 4 is very much a scripted game. There can be triggers for where you're in a stealth situation, they could make one of the buttons work for that. Or, alternatively, make the triangle button do it, because the triangle button is just for interacting the majority of the time in Uncharted. So that would work perfectly fine as well. In fact, I think that is basically the button that you use in Assassin's Creed. I think you hit Y and triangle. So just do that, and then boom, you can lure enemies over. And if we could do... really, if most of my things with the stealth is like, Assassin's Creed did it years ago, let's just add it in. Like being able to use that hook that is also basically a whip that now Nathan has. Okay, we've got that. Well, let's let Nathan do some creative things like that. Why can't he whip a guy down from a position or something like that? Make it actually be almost kind of Bionic Commando-y. It would totally work within the setting. It's fantastical action adventure. That's fine.
Yeah.
it could really add something.
But there is some other weird stuff with the grapple. It's like, I can't climb up this place. Somebody, you help somebody climb up, or you climb up yourself, and it's like, well, I don't know how to get you up now. What's that thing that you can hang off ledges with?
Yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider had the same issue with its hook shot.
The whole time I was just thinking, just use the grapple. You can lie down or something. There are things they could have done with the stealth, but I think they just tried to make it as simple and basic as possible, simply for then allowing, because like to essentially do, in quotes, an air assassination. You just jump and aim for a person, and then the game will go, oh, you're falling towards the person, so I'll steer you towards it, and it kind of then takes control for a bit. But that's literally all you do. You don't go, I'm going to get over them, okay, now I'm going to line up, and now I'm going to jump onto them. You just go, there's a dude there,
Oh,
jump.
that's fine. That's fine. It's made to be a simplified action game. That's fine. As we talked about earlier, that is something that you kind of inherently need with certain types of games. It's just a matter of, it's not about making it more complex. It's about adding depth and the range of tools.
Yeah.
So it's not so much the whole Star Wars Battlefront, let's make everything only be one button press. It's more along the lines of the infamous Second Son, let's make it so that each button press is incredibly valuable no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think with 4 especially, because it wasn't really the same, they kind of wanted to make every button do its thing and nothing else. So, circle makes you dive or go into cover, but it's like a thing that means that you move slightly quickly, because when you dive into cover, you dive around a corner, it's kind of the quick movement mechanic, where X is jump. You always jump when you press X. Square is always punch. You always do some sort of attack when you press square. Aim is always aim, shoot is always shoot. The hook button is always the hook button, and whatever the last button is, I can't remember what it does. Grenade is always the grenade.
Okay, well, how about this then? The PlayStation 4 has a touchpad. It's a completely brand new button.
Yeah, that button's used for the journal.
Okay, but they could have easily set the options button to that. That is no problem. That's a very easy reassign. And then you could have the touchpad be something like, maybe you rub across it to, I don't know, rustle the grass to make the guards come up.
I mean, yeah, you don't even need to press it. That's the thing. You can just, because it's effectively a touchscreen, but also then a whole button. Yeah, they could have done stuff with that. But oh well. There is a thing just about the motion controls of the controller, that there is a bit quite late in the game, it's kind of random, that you have a flashlight and it's running out of battery, and it randomly just goes, like a symbol on screen, it's like, hit your controller. You just kind of bash...
Wait, you have to hit it?
Yeah, you just bash your controller against your hand.
Apparently Naughty Dog wants to drive up sales for new DualShock 4 controllers.
Yeah, I don't know. Naughty Dog's always done that, though. They've always, had the kind of gimmicky stuff. Not really gimmicky, because I do quite like the gyroscope in the controller. It is quite nice. But
oh yeah, the gyroscope can be used quite nicely. Although there's also the weird thing here in Uncharted 1 where you can adjust where your grenade is aimed by tilting the controller back and forth. And I mean, it works remarkably well. They actually implemented it remarkably well. It's just the weirdest design choice.
Yeah, it is quite random. But yeah, they have. I mean, there's Golden Abyss as well, which is literally just, for me, one of the reasons why I don't like it. It just felt like, this is what the Vita can do. It's not really a game, but we're just showing you what the Vita can do.
But those were always side activities. I will grant you that having to tear open new walls with the machete was annoying, and having the final boss fight be a quick QTE was also really annoying. But besides that, it all worked fine. The gyroscope was remarkably responsive, and if you were in a chair with a swivel, you could just totally play it like it was, Nova on the iPhone. It was just as good.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be bad, but I don't know. It just felt a bit gimmicky. But then, I'm saying that, and you basically have the same arguments against the main Uncharted series as I did against that. But yeah, going back to just kind of mechanically, one thing that kind of not annoyed it. Well, yeah, it did kind of annoy me. Is the hand-to-hand combat. So it's.
Oh yeah.
It's still simple. Still just you press square to hit, but they also had the countering. You could counter stuff in Uncharted 3, which they got rid of.
Wait, they got rid of countering?
Yeah.
Wow, so they went from being a bare bones Arkham Asylum to being even more I don't even know how to respond to that. It was basically a QuickTime event.
I know.
How much simpler can they make it?
I know, but they just took out the countering. I don't know why. Because now it's like, I see a punch incoming. I need to roll out the way. Oh, there's someone behind me. Oh, they've hit me too.
And there's a lot of brawling. I've seen there's a lot of brawling. And the animations for countering are still in there. The animations are still in there. When you look at it, you can see it's the exact same animations as with Uncharted 3. So, for all we know, it just got turned off.
Yeah. It is a bit of a weird decision. Instead, you just roll away. Yeah. I don't know. It's... I think it's the only thing that they did wrong. And literally, that is just... I can't counter stuff. I mean, not the only thing they did wrong. It's kind of the most glaring issues. But in terms of the animation of punching, you actually connect with a face. It's not just like, I'm going to warp my hand somewhere towards the face area, and the other character's going to react like they've been punched, but kind of looked a bit funny. It kind of like occasionally rotates the two characters so that the animation can actually work, which is quite funny. So it's like, I'm going to punch you, quick rotation. Yeah, there's little funny things in the animation with that, but overall, they actually have made characters punch each other.
Yeah, we actually haven't really seen that since The Force Unleashed with the Euphoria.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, to an extent, Unity had it. Assassin's Creed Unity, but yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed Unity is a whole new ball of wax.
Just moving on again, what are your kind of favourite moments, or most memorable moments of Uncharted?
Well, I gotta say, in terms of ones that I've played, the two that stick out for me the most are the ones that I mentioned with Uncharted 3, which would be the part where you're dealing with the caravan of trucks and you're riding on a horse, because in that sequence, it's probably one of the best design sequences I think Naughty Dog has done. It's not on par with the winter section of The Last of Us, but it's definitely a good one, because you have to stay on the horse in order to have, the ability to move about and everything during this whole caravan of trucks. And this was an attempt to one-up the truck sequence in Uncharted 2, and they definitely did that, because you're strongly encouraged to be aggressive and jump on the trucks as well. The horse will follow you however you want, and you can attack whichever trucks you want. It's all up to you how you approach the situation, and it all still feels awesome and feels like you're in an Indiana Jones sequence. Yeah. My top favorite part has to be the portions in the pirate shipyard. To be clear, not the cruise liner. The cruise liner sucked. The cruise liner really, really was not fun.
Yeah.
But right before that, where they have the water just kind of moving about, and it's a genuine element to the gameplay. It's not just there to be pretty. You actually have a reason to bear mind in it. And the stealth mechanics, probably for the only time in the game, get real credit for being able to do anything. I mean, there's that one sequence in, I think it's Israel or it's Persia, one of the two, that you're in the castle. They try to make it happen there, but it doesn't work. But in the pirate shipyard, oh yeah, you can be stealthy, you can be aggressive. There's that mounted turret you could take. Honestly, it's the closest I think Uncharted ever had to a level that resembles Crysis of all things. It really resembles the kind of mentality that Crysis, especially Crysis 2 and Crysis 3 had, where they throw a lot of different elements at you in a small sandbox, and they're just like, go nuts. I mean, this is a small area, but there's so many different things that happen, and there's so many items around the level that you have to find. it's really well constructed and really well tied together, and it's probably my favorite sequence out of the entire series thus far that I have played.
Yeah.
That said, I actually am looking forward to whenever I do manage to acquire a PS4. I'm very curious about the whole Madagascar bit in Uncharted 4 because the fact that the Jeep is actually such an integral part, like the horse sequence with the trucks in Uncharted 3, that's really promising. I'm genuinely curious to see how that all pans out, how that
Yeah.
works.
It, it's that sequence, the horse sequence in Uncharted 3, but better, because you now don't have a horse following you, but instead you can jump on any car, you can jump on any Jeep, take control of it for a bit and jump out. Jumping on the bikes didn't work. I just, fell off, but that might just be because I wasn't jumping right or whatever, but
Oh, there's also
yeah.
that part. Yeah, there also is the part where you're having to, do the whole chase through the city and everything that they showed off at the 1E3 demo. But I was kind of referring more to when you're in the back area and you're just kind of exploring the ruins.
Okay, when you're just driving around normally.
Yeah, because then that's what I mean when I'm talking about exploration and it just genuinely feeling like an adventure game. Because a lot of times, the adventure games that let you explore like that are, the old school 2D style ones. Even if they're modern release, they usually try to do it as much like that as possible. But in the case of Uncharted 4, no. You're in a fully realized 3D environment with realistic physics and mechanics built around navigating it, and you just gotta roll with it and figure out where you need to go. You don't even get a map and compass. You're just basically told to go out and explore. You know you'll get there eventually because it's a game, but it's really what I kind of want to see from an adventure game. Here's some stuff. It'll help you explore. Now go find stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it does lead you down a very definite path. You can definitely tell this is where I should be going. But you can just drive off and go to, oh look, there's that. And in fact, the boat section is probably the best example of that. That there's a boat section later you can drive around, sail around in a boat. You don't really sail the boat, but anyway. And I was like, oh, there's an island over there. I'm going to go over to the island. And I just did. I just went over to the island.
Exactly.
And I was like, that's awesome. It was so awesome. Took a screenshot of the island and tweeted it out. Yeah. Social media. Yeah. That is pretty cool. I think probably the boat section does it the best, because the car bit, it felt I was driving along this bit and then
I haven't seen the boat bit yet, actually. I'm curious to see this now.
the Jeep sections felt like, okay, I'm driving along this prescribed path. Oh look, there's a thing off to the right. Let's just turn off to the right like 10 meters. Oh look, now I'm exploring this place. It's still good. Like, don't get me wrong. Still, better than having just going, oh look, there's this bit, now there's this bit, now there's this bit. You actually feel like, oh, I want to go there. Oh, I want to go there. But you don't have to. It's not like you're being led through that bit. You just kind of are told you can go here.
And the nice thing about it, by comparison to, say, if it was an open world game, is you don't have to explore it. Whereas in an open world game, you kind of nowadays feel obligated to look at everything. You don't have to in this case, it's just a nice little addition. It's like the incidental dialogue that can sometimes happen if you do things a certain way. Like, if you mess up a tutorial, you might get harassed by Sam for it. But if you do fine, then you'll be all like, I got it done right. And he'll be like, yeah, good job, Top Shot.
Yeah, the first kind of time you use the grapple, you can miss it, and you can get it the first time. If you miss it, so I missed it because I'm an idiot, and Sam was like, you got it, you can't get it, wait. And I was just like, come on Sam, leave me alone for a bit. And then I wanted to punch him. But then I got it the next time, and he was like, oh, you got it second time, and then he got it first time and kind of made a joke on, I got it first time. And I was like, great Sam, go away. Yeah, I don't really like Sam. Like, as a character, he's a great character. I just don't like him.
Sounding like there's some deep feelings there. You want to express them?
No, I don't want to.
Oh, come on, I'm throwing myself upon the hate of the internet. Join in, it's great fun. The heat is great for your back. It's like a chiropractic massage.
Okay, good, right. Sam is a horrible character. He is literally the worst, right? So, he, throughout the entire story, is basically lying to his brother, where he knows that his brother will do anything for him, because he's his brother, you know. Nate is a pretty decent guy, apart from all the mass murderings, but sweep them aside, right? He is leading him on, he is putting him in danger, and he knows that Nate doesn't want to do this. Nate is only doing the adventure because of, you know, Sam telling him the story of, you know, how he escaped prison and blah blah blah. But throughout the whole thing, I was just thinking, when's Sam gonna stab me in the back? When's Sam gonna stab me in the back? As kids, you know, Sam is the one that you know, puts ideas in Nate's head and, you know, says, oh yeah, you can jump off this building, and Nate's like, yeah, I can jump off this building, and then Nate almost dies. You know, it just constantly happens that Sam is always the one that, you know, pushes Nate off the thing and tells Nate to do the thing, and, you know, yeah, okay, it might sound like he's the bad influence person, and I don't like the bad influence person, but literally he's the one that effectively tells Nate, shoot this person, you know. He's the one that turns Nate into the mass murderer.
Okay, then he's the devil on his shoulder and is in effect one of the antagonists. Your own enemy is someone you care about. It's not someone you want to see something bad happen to, and you don't want to feel bad towards them, but you also know that they're a bad influence. In a way, that's kind of what Joel is in The Last of Us. So, it's incredibly fitting that as a result he has the exact same actor even.
Maybe he's the second antagonist. It's just, I always think of antagonists as the person who's against the protagonist. So it's, you know, not necessarily that they're the evilest and they're horrible, but I always think of an antagonist as, this is the person you're chasing to the thing, or this is the person that, you know, you're going against, or this is the person that's trying to stop you.
Well, in a way he is. He's refusing to let Nathan grow up and actually be a normal person and let go of all the mass murdering nutcase theory. To be honest, it's because of Sam that Nate is even here, and it's also why Nate is so screwed in this whole journey, because if Sam had just stayed on the straight path, Nate would have never ended up here.
Or if Sam wouldn't have steered his brother down the same path that he was going down. You know, he can do whatever he wants, he can do that, but he's basically telling Nate, do what I do because I'm better than you, throughout the entire thing.
And that's pretty much a very good flaw to have for a big brother character, because Nate wants to live up to his big brother's expectations. He wants to make his brother happy. He loves him, no matter what, because that's the thing. Love isn't rational. It will make us care about people even if they drive us up the fucking wall.
Yeah.
We still will care about them, and we'll still feel bad for them if they are in trouble. Even if they totally deserve it, we're still going to feel bad about it. And that's pretty much what they encapsulate with Sam. So, he's not a direct opposition in that he's pointing a gun at Drake's head, but he does actually work as something of an opposition in the form of basically a test of Nathan's progress as a person.
Yeah, he's definitely the second protagonist then. Protagonist? Antagonist.
He's a protagonist and an antagonist. He's so multifaceted, he's becoming multiple characters. Quick, before he spreads!
He is the protagonist at one point, actually, so...
Oh, yeah. I'm really glad they actually did that bit, too, because they could have just had him tell it, but actually showing it through gameplay, that's one of the other things that's been really good that I've seen about Uncharted 4, is that it's...
Show, don't tell.
Yeah.
It's like the Ellie sequence in The Last of Us. Again, you know, I think literally Naughty Dog have gone... Everything that worked with The Last of Us, and I know Videogamer.com got absolutely bombed for this, but I think it's also because the guy didn't like the game, but as someone who loves the game, they have learnt all the good lessons from The Last of Us, and they have applied them correctly to Uncharted 4. And, yeah, it's good. you're playing as the character. You're actually doing the escape. You're whatever. It's not just, oh look, there's this amazing story where I escaped. This is what happened. Cutscene.
You are in the fiction. You are playing the game. You are experiencing it.
That's a very special thing that I think only The Last of Us really got.
Oh, no arguments. That's been my main thing with Uncharted all this time. Everybody's like, oh, you just hate it because it's popular. No. The reason I never liked the Uncharted series is because you're not that much of a participant, and you totally can be. There's no reason you can't be a participant in your own action movie storyline beyond just pressing buttons occasionally. And that's why I got excited when Uncharted 4 was going to be directed by Neil Druckmann, and I forget the other guy's name because there's a lot of names at Naughty Dog, so many names.
They do a lot of things wrong in the previous Uncharted. They do right in Uncharted 4. But yeah, I mean, the procedural animation is damn impressive still. I walk past a wall or I walk round a corner quite tightly. I put my hand on the wall. That's what happens in real life. Nate now does that as well. And
you fill up all the walls you walk next to?
Okay, not quite as bad as that.
Do you get sexual harassments from your walls?
Yes. No, not quite that bad. But it's like, if you're going around a tight corner or whatever, put your hand out. Or if you're going down the stairs, hand down banister sort of thing.
Oh, I know. I'm just harrying you, man.
I get very defensive. I've got let's not go to that story.
So you were saying?
Yeah, like the procedural animation is quite impressive. It like when you walk, it doesn't feel like there's kind of 7 canned animations that you kind of cycle through or that are randomly applied to your step. It actually feels like every step is slightly different than the previous, 30, for example. And I think that might either be because the level changes, there are quite a lot of little bumps and that sort of stuff. Or I don't know what they've done, but it's just very impressive, which wasn't so impressive in previous games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a thing that that sort of interactivity that Tomb Raider 2013 did to a lesser extent with the walking, but in terms of hands and that sort of stuff, the reboot Tomb Raider that is, that they didn't have quite as well, and then Rise of the Tomb Raiders kind of took that to a new level, and I think they've matched that almost with Uncharted 4. Wringing your hair out when you jump into water in Rise of the Tomb Raider is still probably one of the best things in that game. It's like, oh, I'm wet, let's dry myself out. When Nate's just sort of like, I'm wet, yeah. You stand here now, and I'm wet, yeah. It's like, jump into sea, oh, it's cold. Get out in a cold area, and it's like, nah, I'm not cold anymore, it's fine.
Yeah, in that respect, they've definitely still got some stuff to work on, but the upside is, they have all this technology lying around, and as has been said, nobody besides Naughty Dog is really using this tech anymore. So it's nice to see Naughty Dog putting all the technology towards things that do have gameplay effects. Like, I still stand by thinking that it's ridiculous that Kotaku felt the need to make an entire post just talking about the fact that Uncharted 4 had impressive mud physics. But it is nice to see games where that's starting to be a thing, because that's what we really need to see with next-gen consoles. We don't need ever-widening resolutions. We need to actually see elemental effects that are more than just a stat change.
Yeah.
We need to see stuff where the world actually behaves like the world.
like tiny interactions that don't necessarily do anything. They just look cool.
Well, no, I'm not just saying about just being there. I mean genuinely having something of an impact, just not having the world earth-shattering impact, but it genuinely adds something, because like what Fable Legends was doing with the whole freeze effect, where enemies would actually freeze solid, and if you attacked them, they would shatter. And it wasn't simply like in Mass Effect, where it's just sort of like, yeah, we just did a shatter effect, or with Bioshock. It was a genuine shattering of the entire character's model and all of that, and their body actually became frozen.
Apparently Ratchet and Clank has a pixel gun where you shoot enemies, and they turn into pixels, and then when you shoot them again, they shatter into little tiny bits.
Yeah, like that.
But yeah, I mean the mud physics is pretty impressive. Like, you actually have footprints now, which is great. I mean, you walk forward and you leave a footprint. Little things in games do need to happen. Like, I don't care about 4K. I really don't. 1080p is fine. It works. It's clear enough. You can see everything with it. You don't need more. Maybe in games like Armor, running at 4K in Armor, you can see further. You can see distant objects clearer, but...
We're not in the PS2 days where, okay, that thing that looks like a french fry is an enemy, and that thing that looks like a french fry is my ally.
We're in the time where, that rock, and that rock, and that rock, and that rock, and that rock, etc. all look different, and they're definitely all rocks. Screw 4K. It's the worst. It's not. 4K is cool, but, I mean, stuff does look pretty, but why? I don't know. Like, just focus on making games more interactive. Like they did with Uncharted 4. Yeah, I mean, we kind of jabbered on long enough. So is there any, like, additional kind of final remarks you want to make?
Naughty Dog really needs to make a co-op game.
Oh, yeah.
I mean it. I genuinely am surprised that for some reason, the second you take Uncharted and make it cooperative, I suddenly am having way more fun. Maybe it's because the levels are more open and because you can use a far wider array of weapons because you're not limited by a specific sequence. Maybe it's because there's just a lot more focus on team play and stuff like that because you can use the shields and everything, especially in the case of Uncharted 3. And Uncharted 2 is just sort of like, here's 3 missions in a couple of arenas to hold out in, whereas in Uncharted 3 they made like 5 modes for it. But it's clear they know how to do it, and their actors are happy to improv scenarios to explain it all, and the actors improv it well enough that there's not all that much concern. It's just kind of goofy, fun enjoyableness. And also, they're the only developer I can think of who, outside of Bungie, has supported 3 players at once in a cooperative mode. We always see 2 or 4, but we never actually just see 3, which is usually what you can actually scrounge up. There are people who can get 4 people at once, but normally you get between 2 to 3 players.
Yeah, I mean, like, Uncharted, for most of the game, you are running around with someone else. So, couldn't they make that someone else a player for some of it? Like, obviously not every single one, but generally people will play through a game on their own to start with. So you know roughly where you'd be going at those points, like where the AI does kind of lead you along a bit.
Yeah, because, well, basically, everyone complains about Resident Evil 6 for being, a co-op focused action shooter. But the thing is, if Naughty Dog basically took the exact same principle about making something very heavily cooperative, but also have all sorts of crazy action moments, I guarantee you, if they did that, especially with their own unique IP, no one would be complaining and everyone would be buying it. Because it's Naughty Dog.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is you can do that with Uncharted because it is action, but you can't do that with Resi because it's not an action game.
We're not arguing about Resi today.
Yeah, like, it could definitely work for Uncharted. You could definitely build an entire game that's co-op focused, but also work single player as well. That'd be cool.
Hey, Naughty Dog, he's looking for a job.
Yep, I am.
He really likes your games.
I do. Yeah, Uncharted 4 is great. It's just brilliant. Like the ending, it doesn't say anything. It doesn't outright just go, this is what's now happened. So this is obviously the epilogue point, but you wake up as a different character and then you walk around as a different character. And you're like, this character looks a bit familiar.
Yeah, and I'll give them that ending was very sweet and all that, but I also kind of felt like it also undercut the whole marketing message. I don't want to horribly spoil everything, but yeah...
What was the marketing message? As I said, I didn't watch any marketing, so...
Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Almost every single trailer, I'll send you definitely one after this is done, that they did that had its own track built to it. Essentially, all of it has been about how Nathan was facing down death itself and trying to save his friends, and being about how, oh no, he isn't actually all about the treasure. He's actually about friends and family. And it's like, are we playing the same protagonist? I mean, this is some really neat trailers you're putting together, Sony, but we're talking about the same guy, right? We're talking about the same guy who basically killed 1,000 people to try to get to a magic, blue stone.
Yeah, but I mean that does actually, that is a theme in Uncharted 4 though. Like, there is definitely a point where Drake literally, Nate Drake, whatever, literally just goes, I don't care about the treasure, I just want to save you.
Yes, but the whole thing was about how he wasn't supposed to even necessarily survive. They kept really heavily going on about how this is our last game, and they kept being all very much about how this is the last adventure. And
well, then I show you Halo 5 and say the marketing for that was Locke vs. Chief, and that's literally just a mission and a half of the game.
Okay, but in that case, I'm willing to definitely argue that in the case of Halo 5, I strongly suspect, with almost no doubt, that there was a huge rewrite with that one. I'm going to be talking about that in my review when I finally get around to it. There's a very clear sign that a bunch of missions got cut for basically whatever reason. Well, we probably will never know.
I think we've just about spoken about everything we can with Uncharted now. We do have a bunch more, but this is getting long, so I think we'll leave it as that. Thanks for, having a chat with me, Elijah.
It was a pleasure, as always.
I think this is the first time we haven't just outright argued. That tends to happen with us.
Internships were fun.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, again, thanks for coming along. Do you want to plug anything?
Well, if you don't utterly hate me for the things I said about Uncharted, or if you are specifically looking for a channel that tries to take an alternative perspective on reviews of games and stuff and likes to dig into all sorts of weird little games, like I just did Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron, actually, just a little bit ago, and currently am in a Star Wars month, please feel free to check out Unabridged Gamer. It's my YouTube channel, and I'm regularly posting content, bunch of different platforms, bunch of different systems. I reply to the comments, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah. I do have to say one thing, though. Even though I don't necessarily agree with anything Elijah says...
Yeah, that would be an accurate description.
Everything he says makes perfect sense. The way he describes it is absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, definitely, it's why I brought him on here, because he makes sense. Even though I love Uncharted and he doesn't, he makes sense. So that's always good to have.
Also, subscribe to this man's channel. This crazy, crazy man who likes all the things and breaks all the Sony consoles.
All the Sony products.
That is true. Yeah, you did say about the phone. You're cursed. You're cursed. Subscribe to the cursed man.
Subscribe to me. And obviously, follow me on Twitter and everything. All links below, and I'm too lazy to spell it all out, but...
Alright, also, if you wish to follow me on Twitter, I am at Paradigm Fallen, and since he's feeling a little down with the weather, he's Spazzled Rust.
Thanks, Elijah, for coming along. Thanks, everybody, for listening or watching.
Thanks for having me.
And see you next time.